All Three Beards Media podcasts originate from the Gravitate Co-working Studio, sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 2.2. We're on to season 2 of the Hawk's Eye View. I'm your co-host, Andrew Barber, with my other co-host here, Drew Shipley. Drew, how are we doing tonight, man?
It feels like it's been forever since we've reconvened, right? It's kind of nice that we kind of do. Just fair warning, we plan on doing an every other week episode, a bi-monthly episode. I don't know how you want to word it over the basketball season, just for the amount of games that are happening. And, college football news is about to wrap up. Maybe, hopefully, Andrew, I don't know. We get an OC. Do we have an OC? I don't know. But,
yeah.
It's really intriguing right now between the two names that we've kind of bounced around the last couple days, and the pictures circulating around from Scott Docterman and folks over there with The Athletic of Kevin Johns and Kirk Ferentz chumming it up over breakfast, and then you kind of dropped a little nugget on me. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but I'm happy. I'm happy to be here, and it's a beautiful day out here in Maryland.
Yeah.
Andrew, it was 76 degrees today. Did you freeze up on me? Oh, no. Where did he go?
I'm here.
Oh, there he is.
I'm here. I believe.
You are.
My internet sucks.
Chris, we need some internet upgrades.
Yeah, I need some fiber access on Three Beards if I could get it.
That would be good. That would be good.
That's all right. I won't make Chris pay for any fiber optic channels. But Drew, I am in a glass case of emotion, like Will Ferrell in that one movie. I can't remember which movie that is, but
Anchorman, when the bad guy kicked Baxter off the bridge, man.
Yeah. I'm in that right now. I have gone through a roller coaster of emotions in the past 8 hours, probably.
Yeah.
From being really 12 hours, 24 hours maybe. From being really happy to, like, we're getting Kevin Johns. This is amazing. I can't wait. To, oh, it might be Tim Lester. Oh, shit. This is the worst thing that could ever happen. And, wow, I cursed on this podcast, I think, for the first time. Said the S word. I might say some F words if we actually do hire Tim Lester. I might get on here and just rant. It might be bad.
I'll do the F words for you, Andrew, because I'm not too ashamed to do it. And the explicit little page is on there for a reason. So whatever happens. But it's so bizarre, Andrew. Like the circle that we went through this whole thing, where Paul Chryst was locked up, right, for like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like from the minute Brian Ferentz was fired to the conclusion of the bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So roughly 2 months, 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Paul Chryst was in the bag, taking the job. No doubt about it. And I don't know, just the nonsense that's going on is making all these writers look really bad. Like, oh, we got a leader in the clubhouse. And we think we're taking that, as the gospel, and it's never been. It's never come to fruition, except for the announcement of Caden Proctor, which was great, right? Instant
Amazing.
impact player.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know the reasoning. I don't know. Like, I mean, at least it wasn't the Bears' former OC or whatever people were getting upset about. What was his name?
Luke Getsy, and
Yeah,
he was
Luke
with
Getsy.
he was with the Packers for a while. And let me just tell you, I'm a huge Packers fan, but no, thank you. And Tim Lester is from the Packers as well. More so from college football, really. He only spent this past season as an analyst for Green Bay, so it's not like he's a longtime Green Bay guy. If there was one guy from the Packers, it's their wide receivers coach. That's who I thought maybe they were reaching out to. And that would make some sense because the Packers wide receiver coach has done a great job in the past couple of years. But, and I thought, they were maybe reaching out to Clinton Kubiak from the Niners as well, or maybe possibly someone from the Lions staff, and they were waiting on them. But I'm overall happy if they end up hiring Kevin Johns. Main point is this stuff shouldn't affect my mental health like it does, but it does. I should not let the decisions of Iowa football or, commitments of players or who the offensive coordinator is affect my mental health at all, but it does. And I feel like it does for a lot of us, whether that's good or bad, I don't really know, but it is the way it is. Right. I put go ahead.
My main concern with all the names that you brought up, Andrew, outside of Kevin Johns, is the lack of play calling experience. Right? Like, okay, wide receiver coach from Green Bay, that's great. They've done a great job developing Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, right? Like, done a great job with those young players. That's not calling plays, though, man. Like, I understand they're at the NFL level, the top level. That's not calling plays. That's not developing the offensive game plans. That's not, inserting an offense game plan week to week. Like, I need a proven play caller.
Yeah.
And I guess for lack of candidates, is Kevin Johns, right? Like, that's the guy. That guy has to be the hire to me.
Yeah, and honestly, I like Kevin Johns as a hire better than Paul Chryst. And I liked the potential of Paul Chryst. I didn't mind a Paul Chryst hire, but I really think Kevin Johns is better because he's not just the same old. And that's really why I want Kevin Johns, is because it might be a little bit of a departure from what Kirk Ferentz has traditionally done, but we can achieve a lot of the same things. And so I think it might be more, to me, Tim Lester represents a commitment to status quo. Kevin Johns represents a commitment to change on offense and moving forward. And that's really the key difference to me.
Doesn't there have to be a little bit of in between though, Andrew? Like we can't go from traditional pro style offense, I formation 95% of the time to run and gun air raid, what Duke was running. Like 93% of the time they were in shotgun, I believe. I read recently. Like that is a drastic. There's got to be some middle ground here somewhere.
Yeah, there is, and I think there's the biggest thing that I think Kevin Johns would bring is the run pass option plays that we see every team run at every level, and we need a few of those. And I think the other thing he would bring is unpredictability, right, and the ability to adjust in game. I put out a tweet about Kevin Johns, and this is what excites me about him. And I picked, his best years as an OC in multiple different places, points per game, and their national rank in those years. 2013 Indiana, 38.4 points per game, 16th. 2015 Indiana, 36.5 points per game, 24th. 2018 Texas Tech, 37.3 points per game, 16th. 2019 Memphis, 40.4 points per game, 8th. 2022 Duke, 32.8 points per game, 32nd. Now, there's been some down years in between there, and I looked at those as well. But in those down years that we're talking about, like 25.1 points per game, 27 points per game. Or this year at Duke, he lost Riley Leonard 5.5 games in, and that was his star quarterback, but he still managed to put up almost 29 points per game with his second and third string quarterbacks in the ACC, which isn't a murderer's row, but he's still. The theme that I get is Kevin Johns gets the most out of the talent that he has, and he's done it in some places that are not football powerhouses. Like Indiana's not a football powerhouse; they're a basketball school. Duke is a basketball school. Memphis is a basketball school, right? Texas Tech is maybe the only one.
What year did you say he was at Indiana?
So he was at Indiana from 2011 to 2016, and I highlighted 2013 and 2015 as his two best years at Indiana.
Okay, so you gave us all the highlight years. So like my first red flag that went up to me when you were given that breakdown was like longevity in a position. You know what I mean? Like, is Iowa a stepping stone for this guy to try to prove a point, and he's in and out in 2 years because he averaged 27 points a game in Iowa City with arguably the most talented returning offensive weapons Iowa's had in 5 years? Like, right? Like, is that a true statement, you think? With the returning offensive, and then you got the run pass option. Is Cade McNamara going to be able to run that?
Yeah, I think you can run. I think you can run that because the way it's been explained to me on run pass option is you don't have to have a super mobile quarterback. It certainly helps to have that, but I think it's more just like you have to have a quarterback that has a knowledge of when to hold it and when to throw, like when to hand it off and when to throw it, basically. And it's really just more about
he's a good decision maker.
Yeah, it's more about the quick decision, an accurate throw, getting the ball out quick so our offensive linemen don't have to stand and block for 5 seconds. Okay. It's just it's not, and I'm not advocating that we run RPO on every play, right? It's just an option in the playbook.
Sure.
And I think Kevin Johns would do a lot of shotgun things, a lot of, it'd be a mix, like you're talking about, a hybrid mix. But to answer your question about like longevity, some of that was, well, he worked for Kevin Wilson at Indiana. Kevin Wilson was not a great coach overall, got fired.
True.
2017, he went to Western Michigan for a year, actually under Tim Lester, was Tim Lester's offensive coordinator at Western Michigan.
That is ironic. That is ironic.
Yeah, that is ironic. And then 2018, he got hired on for the last year of the Cliff Kingsbury show at Texas Tech. So he's just kind of had these things where he's gotten on. And then 2019 to 2021, he went with Mike Elko to Memphis, and then with Mike Elko from Memphis to Duke. So he latched on to Mike Elko in 2019 and stayed with him through this past season at Memphis and then Duke. So I don't think it's
when he was at Texas Tech, he had Patrick Mahomes.
No, at Texas Tech, he had Alan Bowman in 2018.
Oh, 2018, okay.
Yeah, he had Alan Bowman.
Man, time flies, right? Because like Patrick Mahomes now has been in the league 8 years, and he's in his eighth straight AFC Championship game, which is real nice. I'm a Raiders fan, so it's really not that nice, but nonetheless, like. Highly impressive. But anyway.
Yeah. I'd be more concerned about him if it was just like, I don't know. I think there's a career progression there. Before his time at Indiana, he was at Northwestern. He was running Northwestern's passing game from 2008 to 2010 for Pat Fitzgerald. He was there. And he's got a good mix of wide receiver and quarterback experience. Like all of his time as a position coach or offensive coordinator, he's either / wide receiver or / quarterback or just quarterback / passing game. Like he's developed quarterbacks like at every turn. So at Indiana, it was Nate Sudfeld. At Memphis, it was Brady White. At Texas Tech, it was Alan Bowman. At Duke, it's Riley Leonard, right? It's not maybe the greatest quarterbacks out there, but it's still quarterback development. We didn't know who Riley Leonard was before Kevin Johns got there.
And now he's QB1 at Notre Dame. Right? So I mean, that is a pretty good. That is a pretty decent track record. It really is.
And that's what we need, right? Don't we need someone that can develop quarterbacks and wide receivers who has a history of that?
And if I recall correctly, Kevin Johns also played the position of quarterback, right?
He did for Dayton, I believe, from 1994 to 1997. So
I think that's important. And I read an article this morning, I believe, that it would be the first OC that they had any quarterback playing experience, like in the Kirk Ferentz era, because Ken O'Keefe didn't. Greg Davis didn't. Brian Ferentz obviously didn't.
Yeah.
So I mean, the first OC to have any quarterback playing experience, that's a big deal. And like even in the late 90s, that's fairly modern football.
Right. So that's another element of this. So I think you bring him in, you make him the offensive coordinator / quarterback coach, and then you let him hire whoever he wants to that will come here to be our wide receiver coach, because we've mutually parted ways with Kelton Copeland. And then whoever that ends up being for wide receiver coach, let Kevin Johns pick that, basically, is my
nice guy, good man. And Kelton Copeland, good recruiter. But man, like, look at the wide receiver position in the last decade. Like, look at it. Like, it's we get the 4 stars coming in every once in a while. We get Oliver Martin back from Michigan, then moves on to Nebraska. Like, we get the star guys. Are we getting the right guys? I don't know, but like, people have rated him as such for a reason, and not one panned out, not a single one. Amir Smith-Marset, he was what, a 2-star?
Yeah, 3-star. And Brandon Smith, the same as well. And those are probably your best. I mean, Nick Easley, Matt Vandenberg. I mean,
we were junior college transfers from Iowa Western.
Right. We remember those guys fondly. Tavon Smith.
Nick Easley was a monster, and I don't only say that because he's from my hometown in beautiful Newton, Iowa. But man, like, I don't know if there was a harder worker on that offense that year.
Yeah,
I really don't. Like, he was like you follow Drake basketball in the last 5 years. Garrett Sturtz, he's the hard hat guy.
Yeah.
Nick Easley was the hard hat guy of Iowa football. He did everything.
Anyways, our point is that Kevin Johns and whomever he brings in at wide receiver coach probably going to have a lot better chance at developing wide receivers, because I think our passing offense is going to see a pretty good uptick. I don't think we're going to be elite by any means, and I don't think we necessarily have to be. But everywhere Kevin Johns has been, at least 1 year in his tenure as offensive coordinator at that program, they're in the top 30 in points per game, and that's good.
Yeah.
Think about how that would improve the defense just by default of having a functional offense.
I don't know how you get a better start at the University of Iowa with the people we have returning. I really don't. You have Cade McNamara, you got Luke Lachey, you got Caden Proctor back on the offensive line. Like, yeah, I don't like. There's not a better situation at Iowa. Now, there might be a better situation somewhere else, in Division I football. But at Iowa, like, is there a better position that you can be in to succeed in year one? Year one,
right? And like, who knows? Maybe there's a few guys out there who really like Kevin Johns that are at other programs right now, that when the transfer portal opens up in the spring, they'll consider Iowa because Kevin Johns and whomever he brings as a wide receiver coach is there. I certainly think there's potential for, a wide receiver or a quarterback to see that and say, maybe I want to come to Iowa. I don't think it's going to be superstar. Maybe my expectations will be blown away, but I think we'll find maybe a decent wide receiver or a decent quarterback so that we have Cade, transfer quarterback, and Marco as our top 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah. And Andrew, you kind of brought up a decent point with Jim Harbaugh moving on to the NFL, to the Chargers. The the transfer window is open to Michigan now for the players,
Mhm.
right? And, you don't think Cade McNamara still has some relationships there at Michigan that may or may not bring a 3 or 4-star receiver from Ann Arbor? Maybe.
Right. Someone,
I know we are very short on scholarships. In fact, we're in the hole. I believe
Yeah.
the last time I heard
We
Chad
are.
Leistikow talk about it on the radio. So there's going to be some tough talks, I think, coming up. I know there's been a lot of money raised by Swarm to bring people in. I don't know if all that money was designated for Caden Proctor or not.
No.
I hope not, because his narrative was he's coming home. He was homesick. Well, I'm homesick too, Andrew. If my hometown university is going to pay me $1 million, right? So
Sure.
I don't know how much I buy of that per se. I mean, you're at the premier university of all of college football. Like, so if homesick is the thing, and it truly is, that's great.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me NIL was not a factor in that.
It was. But my understanding is that there's some seniors that will go off scholarship and the Swarm will pay their tuition for a year,
Which is why they want the money.
which is why they're raising the money to be able to offer scholarships to potential transfers.
Which, didn't I say this on this very podcast about a month ago? Didn't I say that? It was like, why can't the NIL just pay their tuition? Did I not say that?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. You didn't specifically say, I think that's what they will do, but yeah, you.
That is true. I didn't say
called
that
it
they
out.
will do that, but I was like, why not? Why would you not do that?
Maybe Brad's listening. Maybe Brad
Hey, Brad.
is. Maybe
Good to
Brad's
see you,
one of
man.
our weekly viewers, right
Maybe.
along with Josie Jewell.
He's way smarter than both of us combined, I'm sure. So it's
For
it's
sure.
fine.
All right, let's touch on Caden Proctor, and then we'll take a break.
Okay.
He is back. I love it. He's instantly going to be our left tackle, and as a result, we're going to upgrade 3 spots on the offensive line. We're going to upgrade left tackle, right tackle, and left guard, because Richmond and Dunker will probably move spots. And man, I'm just dreaming about Caden Proctor and Jennings Dunker on the left side of the offensive line together. That is a whole lot of human, a whole lot of strength, a whole lot of muscle coming at you. So best of luck to Big Ten defensive lines in 2024 and beyond, because Iowa's offensive line is going to improve significantly just by adding one guy.
Yeah. I've had this hard on for a long time, Andrew, and you know this about Aaron Graves. Like, Aaron Graves was an all-state offensive lineman as well.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point in his career, coming in as a true junior now, like,
Yeah.
there's no way he's going to offense, right? Like, he's going to be an everyday starter next year on the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Is he better there? Is it like, I want to see more value. I want to see more growth from him. Like, highly touted, wasn't he a 5-star?
4-star.
4-star, right? 4-star top 100 ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see more growth, or I want to see more innovation. One of the two. I want to see some better uses of the talent that we have on the field, regardless. Which is to be said with Brian Ferentz's offense last year too, but not here nor there.
It's really hard as a defense when you're spending 2/3 of the game on the field.
I know, but I mean, what we took Marvin McNutt. We recruited him as a quarterback, turned into a wide receiver, right? We Parker Hesse wasn't he initially a tight end, went to linebacker, and then he played tight end in the NFL. I can't remember, but like, there's been so many players that they have done that with from their natural position when they played in high school, that they found talent, or they found excellence at the next level with. Dallas Clark wasn't a tight end, was he? Wasn't he a quarterback?
He was a tight end.
He was a tight end in high school?
Yeah. Oh, wait, no. I don't know.
I don't think he was. I don't think he was.
Yeah, Brandon Sheriff played quarterback in high school for a little bit.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, his sophomore year he played quarterback, and then I think he
But
eventually.
anyway, there's been innovation with talent, and they've found places that made them better football players for the football team, and then found it in the NFL. So let's open the mind a little bit.
Yeah, and I think Kevin Johns is the avenue to do that. Not to harp on one name or belabor a point. But,
I swear to God, we come on here next week, Andrew, and we talk about Paul Chryst, and Paul Chryst took the job. I swear to God, I'm going to lose it.
Well, the rumor is, and I think this is actually not just a rumor. I think that his wife actually didn't want to leave Texas. I think that's actually the word. That his spouse did not want to leave Texas, and so can't blame her.
Well, she could have stayed there. She could have stayed there, I guess, for 3 months, right?
Yeah, I don't understand. Whatever. I think we found our way into a better offensive coordinator. And I don't want to. Okay, my last thing on the offensive coordinator and football talk before we move on to basketball talk and athletic director talk. Kevin Johns gets the most out of his guys, like Phil Parker gets the most out of his guys. I'm not saying Kevin Johns is the offensive coordinator equivalent of Phil Parker. He was nominated for the Broyles Award in 2022, though. He was nominated.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was nominated for his work at Duke in 2022. And so I think it's just a matter of, again, in not talent-rich programs like Indiana and Duke specifically, he's found a way to have success. You give that guy some time and a Phil Parker defense to back him up, it's going to lead to a lot more success than what we've seen, certainly in the past 3 years. So that's just where I'm at.
And when you say more success, you mean more than like 10-win seasons.
Yeah,
we're so spoiled. We are so spoiled.
We are, but I'm just dreaming of a Phil Parker defense playing with a 14-point lead. It's
my God, that would be 14.
It's 14-0 midway through the second quarter.
And it's over. It doesn't matter who it is. It's over.
Right. Exactly. That's this is my dream. Right. And then there will probably be more points in the second half. So I'm envisioning 28-7 wins, 28-10 wins, 31-10 wins. Right.
And we're talking Big Ten wins. We're not talking Miami of Ohio, Western Michigan,
right?
Northern Illinois. We're not talking those wins. We're talking Wisconsin. Right. We're talking Ohio State. We're talking UCLA, like in 2024, right? Like Washington, which very well might happen, actually.
Right. In the Big Ten title game, we held Michigan to their lowest yards per play of the whole season, but we didn't have a prayer in that game because we had an offense with a quarterback that turned it over and an offense that you knew wasn't going to move the ball at all on any defense, much less the Michigan defense, who was the best in the country. And that's really the recipe, though, right? Because Michigan, they only averaged 36.7 points per game. I think it was like 24th or 25th out of everyone, but they allowed 10 points per game. And a big part of that was their offense kept their defense off the field, and their defense was talented enough that when they were on the field, they were stopping their opponent. Well, Iowa has the defense and the special teams. They literally just need a functional offense. They don't even need a 36-point per game offense.
When we stopped Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards in the backfield there, like, what, Blake Corum, wasn't he the Big Ten leading rusher?
Yeah.
And Donovan Edwards is no scrub either.
Right. He was top 5 probably in the Big Ten.
Yeah. So, and we stopped them to 100 yards, under 100 yards rushing combined.
Right. And the reason they put up so many points is because our offense gave them the ball
at the 15-yard line.
Yeah, like multiple times. So I'm just dreaming of an offense that doesn't look that hopeless, right? I'm
That's
not
fair.
dreaming of 40
dream
points
of it.
per game.
I dream of a 2009 Ricky Stanzi offense. That's what I dream of.
Plausible. That's a reasonable expectation if we hire Kevin Johns.
That would be awesome.
All right. We will hear from our sponsors, Revelton and Kyle Lehman at Wintrust. We'll be back with some basketball talk and some AD talk.
Why take the best corn in the world and make it into fuel when you could make it into whiskey? That's the question that launched Revelton, Iowa's most visible and fastest growing distillery. Owners Rob and Christy Taylor embrace the grain-to-glass philosophy, sourcing ingredients locally and overseeing on-premises production and bottling at their facility in Osceola. One sip, and you'll agree that Revelton's handcrafted whiskeys, gins, and vodkas are the best you've ever tasted. And with the launch of their rye whiskey, made with 100% Iowa-grown rye and corn, and their new bourbon coming soon, there's more Revelton to love than ever. Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. The great thing about working from home is working from home. The worst thing is working from home, especially for face-to-face collaborations with customers and coworkers. And let's face it, coffee shop meetings are neither private nor professional. So skip the trip to Starbs and investigate Gravitate Co-working Space. For more than 10 years, Gravitate has provided large and small office and conference spaces perfect for hosting meetings, workshops, or other events, as well as private phone booths for confidential conversations. Plus, all spaces include secure fiber internet, free coffee, and access to a kitchenette. All you need is your laptop. Gravitate does the rest. And renting space at Gravitate is surprisingly affordable. An hour of office space costs about the same as venti caramel macchiatos and breakfast sandwiches for two. Daily and monthly rates are also available with no long-term commitment. Learn more at gravitatecoworking.com. That's gravitatecoworking.com.
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
All right, welcome back in. And Iowa has a new athletic director, Beth Getz. We just took the interim tag off. You and I have been saying this for a while, and I feel like everybody else has been saying it too. I mean, we did a search, and I think we had to do a search technically, legally, but I'm glad this move was made. I think this makes a whole lot of sense, and she's a great, strong leader, and I have a lot of confidence in her leading Iowa athletics into the future.
Yeah, no nonsense approach, Andrew. First and foremost, no nonsense. Made the tough decision under the interim tag to let go of Brian Ferentz and not renew his contract, which, could have been a detriment, honestly. Like, that's a 50-50 shot of what you do with that, with, your tenured head coach of 24 years in Kinnick, of what could happen if you do that. And, she was fearless, which is fantastic. She was an athlete herself when she said in her, her introduction press conference, I've been you, is what she told all those student athletes. All the female student athletes in the crowd should provide a lot of pride and a lot of hope for young women everywhere in the state of Iowa and beyond. I'm curious. I'm going to throw this back to you, Andrew. What do you see her biggest challenges are day one per se? What are her problems going to be moving forward past football? Just put football in the rear view. Kirk Ferentz is going to hire Kevin Johns. We're going to go to 2024 with Kirk Ferentz, Kevin Johns, Phil Parker. What's going to be her biggest hurdles moving forward here in the near term?
Yeah, I think she's really, now that kind of the football, she's kind of handled that situation, I feel like, with a new offensive coordinator coming in, it's out of her control now. She's done everything within her power there. Carver Hawkeye Arena is her next goal.
Yeah.
And I think that probably leads into our basketball talk, but
Yep.
I know for a fact that she is looking at everything that she can to improve Carver, whether it's adding more Carver cone stations, whether it's moving the student section or just a full-on out renovation. I don't think you can tear that place down necessarily, but I think that's her next big project. And then beyond that, if we want to look 5 years into the future, she's going to have to replace all the major sport head coaches. So those two things are her biggest challenge. I don't know what order those replacements will have to come in yet. I don't know if anybody knows that, but in the next 5 years or so, she's probably going to have to replace all of football, men's and women's basketball. She's going to have to make the decision on all three of those.
It's wild.
So,
it's wild to think about. That's where I was wanting to lead you to water there.
Yeah, you led me perfectly because that's exactly where we're
Man, a lot of pressure there between Carver Hawkeye. I mean, Carver Hawkeye has been a problem for what, 2 decades, really.
Mm-hmm.
Renovation. What does that look like to you, Andrew? Like everybody, like when you think into like politics, everybody's like, well, let's get better gun control, which obviously should happen. But what does it look like? What are the X's and O's of that? Like what? Give me like an actual plan. Yes, we all want those things, right? Gun control. We want better Carver Hawkeye. But what does it look like on paper? What does it look like in the flesh? You know what I mean? Like it's great to talk about it, but what are those improvements? It's not Carver cones. I promise you that. It's not that.
No, that's just like a nice to have addition. If she added in a few more of those, that'd be nice, but it's not the problem. It's not the problem solve. I understand that. What I think, first of all, is like Carver has too many seats. I think some seats need to be taken out, and it needs to be more of like a 9,000 seat arena. I think it seats over 10,000 now, and it doesn't need to be that big. A lot of basketball arenas.
Doesn't it seat over 15? Caitlin Clark's been selling out 15s, haven't they?
Yeah, we don't need that. 15. We need closer to 10,000 seats in that place. And then also it's like the seats at Kinnick are closer to the field than the seats at Carver are to the court. And that's a problem. That's a weird problem too for a basketball arena. So a renovation looks like moving seats closer to the court, having less seats, probably around 10,000, maybe less. And then basically I think we should do what Michigan State does. And it's like the first 10 to 15 rows around the lower bowl is students all the way around. It's the first 10 rows is all the way around. And I know they're working on like basically like a point system. Like you have to attend events to earn points to, basically making being a member of the student section a more like exclusive club, something that people desire to be a part of. And there's actual perks that go with it.
Yeah.
I know she's looking at that. Like there's a whole class that did a whole study about this and presented it to her and others that can actually make those decisions. So I think that's what it looks like, is making it a closer, more intimate environment, and therefore you will see more sellouts and a louder, more raucous atmosphere, I think.
I will play devil's advocate just to do so. Okay.
Okay. Let's do it.
It's not what I believe per se. What do you do with the rich donors then? What do you do with all those people that pay hundreds of $1,000s generously to the University of Iowa to sit there on the court side and take a nap? You know what I mean? What's the answer to that? Because there's gotta be some give and take. I don't think what you said is absolutely right, because this is a university. It's an institution of learning.
Right.
This is student athletes. This is a kid's game, Andrew. I'm
Mhm.
with you. I'm with you with the changes, but money matters. At the end of the day, we've all figured
Right.
that out over the last several years of humankind. What do you do with the multi-thousand, if not $1 million donors that they might not even show up to the freaking game, Andrew? They just bought the seat to support the university. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that either. They gave the university $1 million to have those 2 seats, and they didn't show up. Well, why does the university care, Andrew? They got their $1 million either way.
Yeah.
Is there, like, where do you put them? Do you put them on a nice little handicap concourse there after you take all those 5,000 seats down into the bowl of Carver, and you put them on a nice little pavilion, and you name it after the Elwell family or whatever agriculture family you want to put in there? But like, this is this pavilion, and you put them all there, and they're probably only 20, 30 feet further up once you take down those seats. But like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know, Andrew. There's so much money that matters to these people, and matters to everybody. Anybody that tells you that money doesn't matter, they're a freaking liar.
Yeah.
That's it. Money matters to me. Money matters to you, I'm sure. It matters. Yeah. And when you're talking tens of millions of dollars a year, man, like you're a business owner at that point. You're not,
So what I think.
Sorry for the rant, man.
I get it, because that is the whole crux of the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because right now we have the big old donors right next to the court, and frankly, they yell at you when you stand up and tell you to sit down, and I'm sick of that mindset. I don't care how much money you've put down. Basically, I think Beth Goetz needs to sit down with the most important donors and say, hey, look, think of the basketball programs like an investment. Do you want your stock to rise? If you want your stock to rise, here are the things that have to be done. Or are you just satisfied with the status quo? Because there's another level that we can get to. Right? And we need your buy-in.
I see where you're going. Look at you.
We need your buy-in.
Look at you. I love that.
Would you like your money to make more money and mean something more?
Yeah.
Or would you like your money to not mean anything at all? Basically, and just keep things the way they are now.
It is so many levels of that, right? And you gotta find common ground.
Right.
You gotta find common ground. In the bottom of Carver Hawkeye Arena, you gotta find common ground.
Yep. That's her challenge. I don't know what her pitch is going to be to the donors, but you should actually write that like as a dissertation, Andrew. I don't know if you're a college graduate or not, but if you want to be a doctor, you should write that, because that was the way that you delivered that here live on the Hawk's Eye View. Oh my gosh,
was absolutely phenomenal. Like, you blew my mind. Actually, when I asked you the question, I really didn't expect like a legitimate answer. I expected like I don't know, like, because nobody knows. Right. And then you gave that answer, Andrew, and you blew my mind, man. You rocked that one.
Thank you for pumping me up. I have every confidence in her to come up with something better than what I just said.
She's brilliant. She's great. Yeah.
So I can write that to her. Certainly, I might. But
you should.
She'll come up with something better, anyways. So it doesn't really matter. Man, let's segue into basketball talk. And which team do you want to start with? Which maybe the women's team, or do we want to end this podcast with the women's team to end this podcast on a more positive note? Because I don't think if we go the other way.
Let's start with the men's team. Let's do it the men's team.
I've stopped bubble watching because I don't really need to after the last loss to Maryland at home. You combine that with the loss to a bad Michigan team at home, like a sub 500 Michigan team, and a Maryland team that's going to finish in the bottom half of the conference, even though they're projected to be better than what they are. And it's unfortunate. And I don't know, maybe basically 5 years straight of making March Madness, I'm counting 2020, we would have made it. If COVID hadn't happened, we were solidly in. We were like a 2 or a 3 seed in 2020. So I'm basically giving Fran 5 NCAA tournament appearances in a row, which is great. There's not actually a lot of programs that can say that. But to kind of have a year like this, it's a lot like the 2017 and 18 year where we only won 11 games. But it's disappointing because we felt like we could maybe reload and be right there again, and we're just not. We're not even going to make the NIT at this rate. We're not even going to make any sort of postseason basketball.
I'm going to pump the brakes on that a little bit, Andrew.
I'm sorry.
I'm not. Man, you're getting me Debbie Downer now. After you,
I'm sorry. I'm usually an
doing Carver Hawkeye, and now we're talking about.
I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist, but
I know you typically are. And like you're kind of down in the dumps on the men's team, and rightfully so, man. Like how do you drop a double-digit lead against a bad Maryland team? Yeah, they're freaking 15 miles from me. I root for Maryland if it's not for Iowa, right? But they're not a good team. They really are not a good team.
Right.
Michigan's not a good team. This game this weekend is a must-win, absolutely must-win for postseason play, regardless. NIT, NCAA tournament, whatever. We talked about this at the preseason of how young this team was and how much talent came from Rock Island, from the Quad Cities. You know, like they gotta figure out how to play in the Big Ten and all that stuff. A lot of growth happening right now. And then those young Fran teams, those teams typically do peak in March, unlike the Fran fade per se of Luka Garza, Jordan Bohannon, Jared Uthoff, Peter Jock, all those years, right? Like, oh my God, we have all these people returning. Their second and third year starters. They're shooters out of their minds. First round bounce. We'll see you, right? Like same result, right?
Yeah.
But in those young teams that we've had, the Woodbury freshman season, like the freshman seasons have been Dean Oliver. If we want to go quarterback, that's not a Fran season, but like just in Iowa basketball history, we've had a lot of growth in March with young basketball teams. Now, like I don't know if we need to like remove Patrick McCaffrey from the lineup. Like, man, God bless him. He went through a lot of shit. Does he belong on the court anymore? I really don't think so. I don't know. I don't think he. Patrick McCaffrey, you and me. What do you think? Like,
oh, bud, that's such a tough subject for me.
He's not shooting the ball well, man. He's not even rebounding. He's not. I don't know. He's got mental health stuff going on too. Like, let's graduate and figure out what you want to do in life, man. To me, I don't mean to sound insensitive to what he has going on because he does. And man, he was such a better, like in my opinion, such a better player when he was a freshman than he is right now. He's a shell of himself.
Yeah. There's a lot more going on that we don't know about, I feel like. Sure. And so I'm just gonna I don't mean to avoid your question, but I'm not gonna. I don't know.
It's fine.
I wish him the best, but
I do too. I do too. I really do. And man, like his first couple of years, like I thought he was better than Connor. I thought he was a better shooter. I thought he was a better rebounder. Connor was a better leader. This team doesn't have a leader.
Yeah, and it's not.
This team needs a leader, and it's not Tony Perkins, which God bless him. He's been kicking ass.
Yeah, and it's not Peyton Sandfort. either.
And it's definitely not Peyton Sanford. He is a finesse shooter at best. That's what he is. Sorry.
See, really thought he would be that next one, maybe to fulfill that role of that combo 3/4 that could make the NBA like Keegan or Chris. And he's just not that at all.
He's not that athletic, man. Look at that last play at the frickin' rim, man. Like, how much?
Well, that's
he didn't get any help. And I know our friend of the show, David Eichholt, was giving a lot of shit to the referees about Owen Freeman and the lack of calls or the excessive amount of calls against Owen Freeman as a freshman defender. Like I'm not. I don't know. Sometimes David kind of goes on the fan side of things instead of the objective, like, news type of things. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
He gets too deep. He's like us. He's like us, which is why we get along with him, I think, and which is why we follow him.
I love David Eichel.
He immerses himself as a fan. He's all about Caitlin Clark. He's all about this team. He's all about the football. Like he's bought in hook, line, and sinker to the University of Iowa. For better or worse, he's our voice. But
here's the problem with.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I understand what you're saying about the Owen Freeman thing. It's a little bit of like, I think it's not just Owen Freeman though either. We see this all across the country where like more veteran guys just get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to calls, and that's just the way it is. It's just
You don't think Owen Freeman blocks that shot 3 rows into Carver Hawkeye?
Yeah, he probably does, but he had fouled out at that point.
I know.
Yeah.
Ben Krikke, where the fuck were you?
He's not a defensive rim protector. We talked about that before the season. You saw it play out in real life.
I know.
Yeah. The real problem with that last defensive possession and the real problem with the end of second half defense that Iowa had was we were playing Brock Harding on Jameer Young. I love Brock Harding, but our best defender in that scenario is Josh Dix. Actually, our best two-way player is, quite honestly, it might be Josh Dix, and we might see that by the end of the season. I think actually Josh Dix is our best defender.
I'm sticking to my guns on Tony Perkins.
That would have been just fine too. But on that last possession, you don't put Peyton Sanford in that situation where he ends up on Jameer Young.
After he torched you for 12 points in the last 8 minutes?
Yeah. And
oh my God.
You also, and you don't put Brock Harding on Jameer Young either. It has to be Dix or Perkins. Just basically Dix or Perkins have to say, everybody else get the heck out of the way. One of us is guarding Jameer Young and live with the result of that, basically. And it would have worked probably better. Honestly, we probably had to overtime and we find a way to pull it out in overtime. But it shouldn't have even gotten to that point because we had a 10-point lead late enough in the ball game to where if you execute, because that's the other problem is we didn't score a field goal for the last 5.5 minutes of the game. That's not typical.
I turned it to another game because we were up 12 with 8:40 to go or something like that. I turned it to another game.
Here's why I'm down, because a lot of people are doing what you're doing. And normally I find myself rather emotional or upset after an Iowa loss. And I felt nothing. Like watching Jameer Young make that basket, I felt absolutely nothing at all. Like, my God. I was like, if I don't feel anything, this is a bad sign. That means I've mentally somewhere checked out.
It's because you've expected it. You knew when you watched the matchup in the last 10 seconds that Jameer Young was going to take it to the hoop against Peyton Sanford with no backside help, with freaking Ben Krikke. Literally, there's a still photo of just Ben Krikke watching this man lay up the basketball. What do you have to lose, man? Foul him at least. I don't care if you Brock Lesnar spear the man. I don't care.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that pisses me off.
Like
Anyway.
you said though, there is young talent on this team. And I think that's the main takeaway from the season is that young talent from here to the end of the year. What do they do? How do they respond? How do they improve? Because I think we have something really good with Owen Freeman for sure.
Young
And-
Fran teams improve in March, man. They really do, and it might be NIT. I don't know, an NIT semi-final run, maybe final run. I don't know. We've had those before.
Don't we have to finish over 500 to even make it to the NIT?
Aren't we 12-8?
We're 11-8 right now.
Okay. Well,
And
we're 12-8 tomorrow. So let's go.
I hope so. I really hope so because our next two games are at Michigan, at Indiana. Indiana is a tough place to play. Michigan has been a tough place to play. It doesn't matter how bad they are. They handed it to us here in Iowa City.
Yeah, they did. They
I
really
don't
did.
have a high degree of confidence about tomorrow's game. I don't have a very high degree of confidence going to Indiana. Maybe we can squeak one out. I don't know. Indiana's a big physical team. We don't have the big physical bodies to deal with an Indiana team. Then we come back home and play Ohio State. Well, they're 13-6. They're fighting for an NCAA tournament spot. They're bubblicious.
It's a slog. It's a slog for sure. You got to go 2-1 there.
Almost got to go 3-0 in my book. Almost got to go 3-0.
Oh, to make the dance for sure. They're going
Oh,
to make
2-1.
They're going to make 500, Andrew. They're going to make 500.
Okay. All right. Well,
we're not
we'll
talking
see.
500 Big Ten, right? We're talking 500 total.
Yeah, I'm talking 500 total.
Okay. I was like 500 Big Ten. No, that's not happening.
Right. Well, I mean, it could because like the Big Ten's not great.
And where
maybe we can
where are we sitting at now in the Big Ten? 3-5?
3 and yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we were 3 and 4. We're 3 and 5. I mean, back-to-back wins.
Yeah.
Michigan's the bottom at 2 and 6.
I can't believe that. That's wild. Javon Howard going to get fired.
Yeah. Anyways, I think just the problem here for me is I don't know how much higher this program can go under Fran McCaffrey than it's already gone. Because we had Luka Garza, the all-time leading scorer. We had first-round pick Keegan Murray, first-round pick Chris Murray. We had the all-time assist-to-turnover ratio guy and Connor McCaffrey and a good leader. We had Joe Wieskamp. We had the all-time three-point leader, Jordan Bohannon. We had CJ Frederick, who was a decent player. We had all those guys.
Everybody's had CJ Frederick, and he's always ended the season on the IR, so it's okay.
Sure, but I'm just saying that's probably – I don't know if we're going to see a collection of talent like that in the Fran McCaffrey era ever again. And that collection of talent got run off the court by, admittedly, an underseeded Oregon team that got a first-round bye.
Yeah.
In a COVID scenario.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if we're ever going to see anything better than that. And then the next year, we were playing really, really well with Keegan Murray leading the way. We won the Big Ten tournament, and the whole Richmond thing happens. Not to bring up old wounds, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say anymore about the state of men's basketball. So
I mean, at the end of the day, they make the tournament, Andrew. They have in the last 4 years. We've sat here. We personally have not sat here and talked about it, but we, the collective Iowa fans, have sat here and talked about this year in and year out, and somehow, some way.
Yeah. A lot of it just comes down to what are your real expectations for Iowa basketball, just in general. And remove Fran McCaffrey, what's a realistic expectation for Iowa basketball? I don't know what that looks like, but it doesn't look like being a national title contender every year. I don't think we have those kinds of resources.
No.
But does it? But yeah, so Fran's done a lot for the program. That's why it makes this tough. I'm not saying fire Fran McCaffrey. I feel like Fran has earned the right to go out on his own terms. I feel like he's earned that much, and he might. Yeah, and I don't know if the fans would be upset about that at this point.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at, I guess. So
fair enough.
So yeah. So yeah, Drew, if you wanna
Yep. I'll be right back.
All right. Drew will be right back, and you'll get me on my monologue game for a while. So let's just say if Fran McCaffrey was to retire or something were to happen at the end of the season, I feel like the next head coach for Iowa basketball, we should look no further than Des Moines, Iowa, and one Darren DeVries. I know some people will say maybe he doesn't have the experience, but I've seen him recruit at Drake, and that is not always an easy proposition. He's led them to, I believe, 20 wins in every single season, and they are either winning the Missouri Valley regular season and conference tournament, or they're right there for both. And they went toe-to-toe with the Miami team in the NCAA tournament in a game they, by all means, probably should have had. And that Miami team goes on to make a run to the Final Four. So I have a lot of belief and trust in a head coach like Darren DeVries, and believe that he could get the kind of guys to run his system, and he is a good coach. Obviously, if we were looking at replacing Fran McCaffrey at all, Darren DeVries has to be at the top of the list, but we would look at other names too. So I think we would do a nationwide search and see what we could pull in, but I don't know if the list of names would be as spectacular as people are expecting.
It's a Power 5 program in the Big Ten, arguably top 3 basketball conference, Andrew.
Right.
Darren DeVries would be a dream hire. Absolute dream, home run, grand slam hire. Like, cannot be a better hire, honestly.
Right. And would Tucker come along, or is Tucker going pro after this year? I think that'd be a whole other question.
Sure.
As well. I mean, there has been talk, Drew, of Fran maybe looking at other jobs, Fran maybe looking at retiring, and I don't mean to bring up another bad situation, but the whole Jack situation. He's not coming to Iowa.
I was about to mention that to you, Andrew.
I don't like talk. Another situation I don't like talking about. I just don't like talking about
it. And it's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I've told you about the situation. It was one of my good military friends that it happened to.
I'm so
sorry. Known him for 20 years. I mean, it was pretty brutal in the Iowa Guard community. Not blaming anybody. Just a tough situation, like you said. We will leave it at that.
Yeah.
But with that being said, like you said, Andrew, like what does Fran have after Patrick, graduates and moves on? Like, does he want to coach somewhere else? Does he want to? Where's Pat going? Or not Pat, Jack. Where's Jack going? Might need a fresh start for the whole McCaffrey family. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. And I honestly wouldn't blame him one bit, because
I wouldn't either. That's brutal. That's such a brutal situation, man. Like, it's not fair to anybody. It just so happens it happened to one of my mentors. So it was rough deal.
I think we're being kind about the situation with Fran McCaffrey. There are others who, I've seen on Twitter, on message boards, who are not so kind, and I'm sure behind closed doors are not so kind, and
I'm not. I'll be honest.
yeah,
I wasn't behind closed doors. I was so
Yeah.
mad.
well,
And it wasn't because it happened. It wasn't because it happened. It
yeah,
was because of the lack of the information, the lack of flow of accountability, or the lack thereof of accountability. And I understand like the legal repercussions of not doing so. I get that. Like that's whatever legal mumbo jumbo, but like you knew damn well it happened. Like address it, apologize, move on. We will have our day, and for whatever, like
right.
I wanted
just meant-
I wanted accountability. Sorry.
I just meant I just meant we aren't out with our pitchforks screaming "Fire Fran" at the top of our lungs.
No,
because
no.
There's a lot of that going on.
No. That's not happening. Well,
Yeah, not for me either. Because I don't know. I personally, this is just what's my adding to the noise of yelling "fire this person" or "fire that person" really going to do? It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Also, that's someone's livelihood. Like, who cares? Who cares about my opinion about whether someone should be fired? Now, if we're
You know
talking
who
about
cares, Andrew? It's the person that donated $5 million to sit there on court side of Carver Haka.
well, they maybe have a little bit more of an opinion that matters because of the money behind their opinion. Right.
Yeah.
My $20 a month membership to the Swarm and my infrequent visits to game days is not quite the same. Even though I invest quite a bit of time watching on TV and whatnot, it's not quite and doing this podcast, it's not quite the same. But anyways, we can move on to this women's basketball team and everything surrounding that. That Ohio State game on Sunday was just a tough one to stomach. I was emotional about that one. I definitely do not have any apathy in that situation.
They were lucky to force overtime, in my opinion. The Iowa women were lucky to force overtime, And man, like, is anybody ever going to help that woman? Is anybody going to help 22 and big games? Where was Gabby Marshall?
Yeah.
Three points, 41 minutes, I think I saw.
Jeez Louise.
But I will say this, and I've had this argument with my friends, as you already know. Hannah Stolke. My friends wanted to put her on the pitchfork as why they lost this game.
Oh, yikes. No, not at all.
Said she was trash. I remember you remember me telling you this, right?
Yeah, I did. I did not like that.
Pissed me off.
I don't like your friends anymore.
Well, my friends are great, but like their takes are terrible. Can we
just
address the turnover problem with Caitlin Clark? Can we do that? Is that allowed? Is that allowed? Because anytime I bring this up into social media, into my friend group, to anybody who's like, well, she hung 45. Well, yeah, she hung 45, and she hung 15 for the other team, too, for turning it over 7 times. Like, can we cut that 7 to 3? You know what I mean? Like, is 7 turnovers a problem to you, Andrew? Man to man.
Yeah, it is.
Podcast,
it's a problem.
Thank you. My God.
7 turnovers is a lot for one game. But, yeah, and also just, like, some forced shots, too. But, like, it's so hard to question her just because of her greatness, too.
Yeah.
She's going to have some games like that, though. And I guess you kind of just have to live with it, right?
I mean, I guess, but like,
I think ultimately, though, this team is like, it's like what you're saying earlier. Is anyone going to help her? I think in her mind, like she knows she has to get it done in these big games, or the team doesn't really actually have a chance at winning. And unfortunately, we're too reliant on 22, which it's great because it works in most games. It works really well in most games, but not against a good opponent like Ohio State on the road. And especially not when Cody McMahon is allowed to step through for 3 or 4 steps every time she makes a post move. Women's basketball officiating in general, fix it. I don't know. Maybe our 3 blind refs guys are listening and they hate me for this take, but
you know what? Maybe we should have like a collaborative episode with 3 blind refs. That would be awesome. I would
love that. And just solely talk about women's basketball officiating, because the state of women's basketball officiating, it's not even just Iowa games. It's every single game. Literally every women's basketball game that I've watched, it is not good.
And not to go back to men's basketball, but what about what happened in Ames with Kansas State and Iowa State? Like,
okay, Jerome Tang, chill out, dude.
He's a douche. He's a douche.
Chill out, man. I don't like Iowa State at all, and I am the last person to defend Iowa State anything. But the absurdity of claiming that they cheated like the way Michigan football cheated, that how does that even work in basketball? Basketball is too fast paced for something like that.
And then circulated the racist bait that they did too.
Stop with that. If there was any of that, I mean, you know who you are. Shame on you. Don't do that. There's no need for that. But like, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
It's all sunshine and roses in Kansas at the Iowa State bench.
Oh, it's gonna be wild.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild in the return game, but I mean just every year at Kansas State when Iowa State goes there and their students are behind their bench, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that everybody's just, asking how everybody's mom is doing and exchanging pleasantries. That's how they exchange pleasantries in Kansas. I don't know. My point is just that like their fans probably say just as bad of things, if not worse, right?
Oh shoot.
That's my point. That every road environment, when you're dealing with college kids or passionate fans that are behind a team's bench, stupid things are gonna be said. You either have to find a way to block it out and keep going, or have someone on hand to deal with it. Can we go back to Iowa women's basketball? Though?
Yes. Sorry. Tangent.
Yeah. Anyway, Kansas State is full of it. Ohio State, fix your security too. What the heck is going on? We can't have 80-year-olds in sweater vests trying to hold back people from storming the court. Storming the court is fine, but also you need to have like some legit security people to usher the opposing team out. You should be more prepared for this kind of an environment. They were not prepared at all, and it led to what we saw at the end of the game. And I'm not upset, and I might have passionately tweeted out, jail that fan for life, which maybe they don't need to be jailed for life, but that made me so mad. Like that situation should never even happen. A fan should never be within 10 feet of Caitlin Clark in that scenario. Never.
I can't say that I'm complete opposite side of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because there should be some understanding of where you're at, whatever.
True.
When I watched the video in real time, I thought Caitlin was kind of exuberant leaving the court. I thought it was excessively after the final of the game. Like it was, I don't know, a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Until she actually was trying to run off the court, shaking hands, doing all that stuff. I'm not saying it's her fault by any means, Caitlin Clark. But yeah, like just the court storming in general is, I don't know. Like how do you manage it? Like Iowa State did. They figured it out. Randy Peterson from the Des Moines Register broke his leg during a storm court of his own team in Ames.
Yeah.
What was it, 2 years ago, maybe?
No, it was more than that. It was when a ranked Iowa State team came back to beat Iowa, unranked Iowa.
There was. Yeah,
They
see?
stormed the court, which
See?
that's
There you go.
okay. That's one of the most disgraceful court stormings. You should not be storming the court in that scenario. Stupid. Stupidest court storming of all time. But I digress.
Anyway, I'm not blaming anybody actually in that scenario. I'm really not. I think Caitlin Clark could have got off the court sooner than she did. Whether she saw that person or not, I think is irrelevant. It looked like maybe that person was working social media for Ohio State that was trying to capture, which has been a big narrative in stories that I have seen.
Okay.
I think it's a much to do about nothing, Andrew. I really do.
Okay. All right.
Caitlin is fine. She didn't tear her ACL. They took a loss at Ohio State, which, by the way, I predicted on this very podcast.
Yeah.
And
it's all right.
I mean, they lost 2 games. They're still in the driver's seat for a 1 seed. Even if they're not, so what, man? Like you're gonna have to beat those teams anyway. You're gonna have to beat them all.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, yeah, we're still in the driver's seat for a 1 seed. Big one coming up this weekend.
Illinois, right?
Yep. Yep. I mean, I just want them to get back on the right track, really. Is after a loss like that, they play Nebraska tomorrow at 1:00.
Oh, Nebraska. That's right.
And Nebraska's they're not ranked, but they're 13-6. They're a decent team. So, and it's at Carver. So hopefully Carver will be full up like it usually is. And we'll move on to 19-2 instead of, 18-2 where we're at now. And like you said, I think you said, who cares about a 1 seed? Actually, I do. I'd kind of like to see a 1 seed.
Do you really though?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to me, like, I guess I think in the men's tournament, right? Like, how many 1 seeds actually advance to the Final Four?
Yeah, not every single one of them.
It's
usually
maybe 2.
Yeah,
it's usually 2 on average. Is that fair?
Yeah, but the women's tournament's a little different.
There's less parity in the women's tournament.
A little bit less. Sure. Yeah. Although there's plenty that helped Iowa in their run to the Final Four, actually worked in Iowa's advantage.
100%. Yeah.
Because the 1 seed, I think, in their region got eliminated prior to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, it was in the Sweet 16. Yeah.
Yeah. And they played like.
Was that NC State?
Yeah. NC State got eliminated in the Sweet 16. State.
Yeah.
I can't remember who Iowa played in the Elite Eight. Louisville, right?
Yep.
Played Louisville.
Haley Van Lith to go to the Final Four.
We beat Louisville pretty badly.
We
beat Colorado.
We beat her ass.
And then we beat South Carolina.
That's right.
But like I'm envisioning a scenario. What if we end up as a 2 seed in 1 seed South Carolina's region?
You know what? I absolutely want it again. I would sign up for that again, Andrew. I want to run the whole gamut to shut all of them up. To shut them all up. Dawn Staley, bye. Kim Mulkey, bye. And then in the title game, run the table on them. Over. Caitlin Clark does not come back to Iowa. That's a natty. Hang the banner. See ya. That's it.
Yeah, I would love that.
And then she joins South Carolina's Aaliyah Boston and Indiana, and all is great in the world. That's what's happening.
Did you watch?
I believe that in my heart. I want that actually. I want to face them both.
All right, can't wait. Let's do it. Did you watch South Carolina LSU last night?
I watched the final few minutes. I did.
Yeah.
Not the whole game, but man, South Carolina came back, double-digit lead. You know what? Like, I don't like either of those coaches. I really don't. I obviously don't like Angel Reese, so I kind of sided with South Carolina on the road, right, at LSU.
Yeah.
So, like, I was kind of happy about it that the number one team remained undefeated. But, like, I kind of wanted them to be upset, too, because Iowa can then – well, they wouldn't jump up over them in either way.
I think the biggest news of the night was Kim Mulkey actually got a warning for her antics.
She is such a bitch.
Okay, she's on the court so much. She managed to play 48 minutes of a 40-minute ball game. That's how much she's on the court, man. And I was just begging for some South Carolina bench player to just, as they're running down the court, just accidentally give her a little bump, a little shove to the side. And then there was this other lady in this leather catsuit on her bench, and what the hell?
Oh, her assistant coach, yeah.
What the heck are we doing? What are we doing? We got how many Dalmatians did we have to kill for the coaching staff's outfits, man?
Freaking Cruella DeVille is her name, right?
Yeah. There's this guy on Twitter, Iowa fan, Mike Ott, and he put out a tweet back in like June of this year that said, I've never seen Kim Mulkey and the Crypt Keeper in the same place at the same time. If you remember the Crypt Keeper from that Nickelodeon game show.
Oh, yeah.
That is what Kim Mulkey looks like when she's not wearing all that makeup. So, yeah, she's got 1 foot on the court and 1 foot in the grave, man.
That's right.
So, sorry, that's my Kim Mulkey rant. I hate her.
It's all good.
Caitlin Clark is going to get us back in the winning column. We're going to be feeling good about women's basketball. Hopefully men's basketball can get a win, although I feel less optimistic about it.
I feel good about it. I feel good about it, Andrew.
I'll take Michigan to win, and hopefully I am reverse psychology. If I feel like if I predict Michigan to win and then Iowa wins, I'll feel better about it. I'll take that wrong prediction for the sake of an Iowa win.
So you're taking the Drew special. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's it. Anything else before we wrap it up and call it a night?
No, man, I'm pretty pumped, especially, I don't know if we're going to do an episode before the Maryland game. That used to be a top 10 preseason matchup. The Maryland women haven't been as good as expected in the Big Ten. So I don't know if you want to do anything next week. I do have some events going on with the Capital Area I Club going down. They're doing a Hawkeye huddle down here in the greater DC area, watching the Iowa men's game actually Friday night. And then Saturday morning, going to host a breakfast at Crystal City Sports Pub with Des Moines Register columnist Chad Leistokow is going to be in town.
Wonderful.
So plan on doing an event there or two. Got a little swag to hand out to all of our fine folks of the Hawk's Eye View down at those events. So I plan on making an appearance down there. Maybe chum it up with Chad Leistokow a little bit, maybe.
That'd be great. Do that. Let us know how it is. Maybe we'll consider coming back on next week. We said bi-weekly, but maybe we'll come on next week before the game and maybe talk about it a little bit, or maybe come on after and you can talk about all of your interactions, all of your experiences. Maybe the next week.
Yeah, because I'll be going to the game. So
hope to see you on TV. I think that's is that another Saturday night on Fox Affair? I believe it is. Actually,
Actually, I believe it is because it's an 8 p.m. tip here in College Park. So 7 p.m. Central on Fox. Yeah, I believe so.
Try to mosey down to the court. I don't know how good security is there at the arena, but try to mosey down because you'll probably get to see Gus Johnson.
Well, I do have credentials. So
use your credentials to get yourself next to Gus Johnson and take a picture, and I will be forever Joss. Gus Johnson is my favorite announcer, man.
He's pretty good.
I love Gus Johnson on the call of a basketball game. He is awesome.
I like Gus Johnson on football myself because, I go back to the 2015 Big Ten championship game. Oh, he's got it. Tavon Smith, 85 yards, Iowa with the dab. Oh, man.
I loved when
in the stadium. It was beautiful.
Well, yeah, the best Gus Johnson football call for Iowa, though, is the Holiday Bowl when ISM returns the kickoff for a touchdown. He says, ISM, see you later. And he's copying the 2002 Orange Bowl where CJ Jones returned it. CJ, see you later. And it was the same thing.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize
17 years apart. Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Oh,
yeah. Yeah. Gus Johnson, so he's ecstatic, but he realizes the moment. It's great. He's also the early voice of March Madness for me.
Yeah.
Like he was the voice of March Madness. So, but I digress. It's been an excellent podcast, a little bit longer because
there's nothing wrong with that, Andrew.
Yeah.
Bonus episodes. Let's go.
Yeah, a little more bonus content for everybody who's out there listening tonight. So
yeah,
we appreciate all of you listening to our show. I think we got quite a few new listeners tonight. So we appreciate all of you tuning in here on a Friday night. Thank you, as always, to everyone who listens, everyone who sponsors the show. Three Beards Media. Chris, you do excellent work. Gravitate,
Thanks,
Revelton, Kyle Lane, and Aaron Wall, you do excellent work as well. We appreciate you and your efforts as well. Check us out. Check out all of our other podcasts on the network. Thank you all. Have a great night. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.